Roman named Marcus sat on a public toilet in Pompeii, chatting with his neighbor about gladiator fights, while they both used the same sponge to wipe themselves. Hours later, Mount Vesuvius erupted, freezing this moment in time forever. When archaeologists found his remains 2,000 years later, still sitting on that toilet, they discovered something horrifying. His intestines were riddled with parasites that came from that very sponge he was sharing. This is the disgusting reality of how Romans really lived. And trust me, it gets so much worse than a communal poop sponge. We romanticize ancient Rome. We see their marble statues, their grand architecture, their sophisticated philosophy, and we imagine a civilization at the peak of human achievement. But here's what your history teacher didn't tell you. Romans had hygiene habits so revolting, they'd be considered war crimes today.
Yeah, the only reason, giving all praises to Yahweh by Shem Yahweh Shai by Hashem HaChodesh, double honors to our apostles and elders, her great millstone, peace and blessings to the Lord's hopefully elect. The only reason Rome is so romanticized and put on a pedestal of peak civilization is because that's when these Edomites, okay, the so-called white man, including the so-called Jewish man, were at their peak. That's why they loved the Roman Empire so much, because they were basically given a pass from the Lord to rule. And at their peak, this is the things that they have done. They're not going to tell you the how they really behaved themselves and how disgusting they were. In schools, they're not going to do that. They're just going to try to cover up the bad and try to just talk about, like I said, oh, it was peak civilization. Everything was so well. Well, if that was the case, then how come that these people did these things, these foul things, right? How on earth that these people, because that's what somebody's going to ask the question. You study how disgusting they were, right, as heathens, and then they'll say, well, if they're so disgusting, or if they're, then that must mean they had smarts. They at least were smart, right? They had some type of capability, because how else would they rule? Well, that's because the Lord Yahweh, all right, the Heavenly Father, he chose this man to rule in the end. And part of his revelation in the end is that he's going to reveal to the world, as well as you Edomites, that you are a base people. You are a base man. And the only reason you are in power, even till now, is because the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, was upset at his people, the Israelites, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, and he allowed you, he chose you to be the end of the world. He allowed you to rule, not because of your might, not because of your wits, but because you are the wicked. And he chose you to rule in the end, just to show his power in the end, just like he did the king of Babylon. The king of Babylon was warned a year before it even happened. He was warned by Daniel. He said, you are this tree, because he broke down the vision. Or was it a statue? Whichever vision it was. But he told him, he said, in the end, you're going to fall. And you're going to fall. You're going to get pride, and you're going to fall because of your pride. And he told him that a year in advance. And after a year went past, he forgot. And what happened was he boasted in himself. And he said, I did all this with my hand. So what did the Lord do? He put the spirit of a beast on him. Just to show you, like, I'm the one that puts people in power. And that's what you Edomites are going to figure out. You didn't just take the world because of your wits and your might. You took the world because the Lord Yahweh, Yahweh Shah, allowed you to take over. And the only reason you were able to put us in slavery is because he was mad at us. He was mad at his people for the sins we committed against him. And he's going to make that known before he brings the deliverance. He's going to make it known so the whole world will know, the other nations will know, and as well as you will know. And that's going to be a serious blow to your pride. But yeah, man, this video here explains how filthy they were. We're going to listen to a little bit of it.
These people conquered the known world while brushing their teeth with human pee and wiping their butts with a sponge that hundreds of strangers used before them. I'm about to take you on a journey through the most stomach-churning aspects of Roman daily life. By the end of this video, you'll understand why Roman dinner parties ended with vomiting, why gladiator sweat was a luxury beauty product, and why being a Roman emperor didn't save you from having worms crawling out of your... Well, you'll see. Fair warning, you might want to put down that snack. Let's start with everyone's favorite topic, going to the bathroom. Today, it's a private affair. In Rome. It was a social event that could literally kill you. Roman public toilets, or latrine, were architectural marvels and hygienic nightmares rolled into one. Picture a large room with 20 to 80 stone seats arranged in a square, each with a keyhole-shaped opening. No doors, no stalls, no privacy whatsoever. You'd walk in and see dozens of people doing their business while having full conversations. Politics, sports, business deals, all discussed while defecating together. Romans saw this as perfectly normal. In fact, they had a saying, "Money doesn't stink," which came from Emperor Vespasian defending his tax on public toilets. But here's where it becomes a horror story. Instead of toilet paper, Romans used a tersorium, a sea sponge on a stick. Sounds almost civilized until you realize this wasn't your sponge. It was the sponge. One sponge for everyone. After use, you'd dip it in a gutter of running water, if you were lucky, or a bucket of water mixed with vinegar or salt water, if you weren't. Then you'd place it back for the next person. Let me paint you a picture. It's a busy day at the Circus Maximus. Thousands of people need to use the facilities. That sponge has been used by hundreds of people. The water is murky. The sponge is falling apart, but it's all you've got. Dr. Philippe Charlier, a forensic archaeologist, analyzed ancient fecal matter from Roman sites. He found that these sponges were basically pandemic delivery systems, spreading roundworms, whipworms, giardia, dysentery, and typhoid. But parasites were the least of your worries. Roman toilet.
Yeah, because these people are very low base people, and this is how they all are. All of them are like this. The Edomites is well known, as well accepted, is even well admitted by Edomites themselves that they do not like to be clean. They hate being clean. You know, I used to work in a hospital, and they would have the whole wash your hands signs, and they would really drill that in repeatedly every single day. And it's a reason why, because primarily it's Edomites in there, and they know that them Edomites hate washing their hands, so they have to be strict on them to try to tell them that you have to wash your hands. You know, who knows how many people have probably got sick and infected just because some doctor or some surgeon or somebody didn't wash their hands, because they don't. These Edomites will, it doesn't matter if they go to work, doesn't matter if they done been schooled on it several times over, doesn't even matter if that's their profession. When they go to the bathroom, if they can get away with not washing their hands, they will. They will walk to that. They will walk. We've seen them. We probably all seen them. They will walk, even to the chefs. They will walk to that sink and they will look left and right. And if they can see that they can get away without using that soap dispenser, they will just run their hands in water and walk out. They don't like washing their hands. They don't like to be clean. They don't. These are these people. These are these heathens. Okay? And that also includes Amalek. And they're worse. But they think we don't know about them. But we know about them. Okay? But these are the things they did when they were in their peak. This is the things they like. Just like if you watch that movie Gladiator 2, me and the brothers had watched it with Denzel. That's probably the only reason we watched it. I didn't watch the first one. But it shows you in their peak. Well, the brothers were stating that this movie, they really were more open with it. And they weren't trying to hide how they were. So I haven't watched the old ones, but I have to take their word that in the old ones, they just try to show the Romans and the gladiators as these mighty people or whatever. Not so much show the dark side or the personal life, but they actually showed that it was primarily a bunch of homosexuals. The leaders were a bunch of homosexuals. So you would wonder, okay, you're in the power seat. You have access to whatever woman you want. You choose to engage in homosexual activity and throw homosexual parties. Yes, because those are the things they want to do. The trannies and why do you think the first transgender operator, the one who really pushed that, was a so-called Jew? I forget his name. I did a video on him. But the first one to actually perform change the plumbing from a man to a woman or whatever was in Germany by a so-called Jew. And that whole little that whole little area, whatever it is, I forgot the name of it, but it was turning out to be basically another Rome, like another Sodom and Gomorrah. Because these are the things that they want to do. That's why they passed the laws. They They like to be unclean. They like to do these filthy, vile things. They don't see a problem with they don't like going. They like to be base. These are the things they like, and they put Rome on the pedestal because this, to them, that was their peak civilization. But these are the information they want to try to hide. But we know about it because that's exactly how these diseases came over here to America. It was because of the so-called white man. All these diseases that you got to get shots for when you're born is thanks to Esau Edom, the so-called white man, primarily due to his poor hygiene and his defilement with nature and the things he does with nature. That's how these diseases spread.
Were built over sewer systems where methane gas accumulated. Sometimes this gas would ignite. Imagine sitting there were soaked in aged urine to remove stains. Slaves would literally stomp on clothes in tubs of pee, like making wine, but infinitely worse. Physicians prescribed urine for everything from headaches to cancer. They'd examine its color, smell, and yes, taste, to diagnose illnesses. Animal hides were soaked in urine to soften them. That expensive leather couch Romans lounged on? Pee-soaked. Mixed with certain plants, urine created blonde dyes. Roman women desperate to look Germanic would regularly wash their hair in pee. Being a fullinus, urine processor, was one of the worst jobs in Rome. They spent their days knee-deep in fermenting urine, their skin permanently stained yellow, their sense of smell destroyed. Many developed severe respiratory problems from ammonia exposure, yet they were essential. When Emperor Vespasian placed a tax on urine collection, there were riots. His son Titus complained about taxing something so disgusting. Vespasian held up a gold coin and said, "Does this smell?" Thus the phrase pecunia non olet, money doesn't stink. But wait, you might say, Romans had elaborate bathhouses. Surely those were clean. Oh, sweet summer child. Roman baths were essentially human soup kitchens where diseases were the main course. Let's start with basic math. The baths of Caracalla could hold 1,600 bathers. The baths of Diocletian, 3,000. Now, how often do you think they changed the water? Try once a week, if they felt like it. Dr. Piers Mitchell from Cambridge University studied Roman bath water remains. He found that by the end of each day, the water contained dead skin cells equivalent to 50 pounds, fecal matter from inevitable accidents, blood from open wounds, pus from infections, and various bodily oils and secretions. One Roman writer, Marcus Martial, complained, "The bathwater is so thick you can't see the bottom of the pool." Romans didn't use soap. Instead, they'd coat themselves in olive oil, exercise to work up a sweat, then scrape everything off with a curved metal tool called a strigil. Where did the scrapings go? Right onto the floor, or back into the water. Slaves would occasionally sweep up the grey, greasy mixture of oil, sweat, dirt, and dead skin. But occasionally is the key word. Here's where it gets truly insane. The scrapings from gladiators, their sweat, dirt, and dead skin, were collected and sold as a luxury cosmetic. Rich Roman women believed gladiators.
And if there's one word that doesn't come up, it's the word soap. Soap isn't in their vocabulary. They make it known. These people are very low and very base. Edomite women, they tell you on the internet they don't like to bathe. They'll tell you how they'll just use shampoo. One chick says she just use shampoo and let the shampoo just run down her back. That's her way of washing, and she'll probably do that once or twice a week. They don't like to be clean. When you get them, it's on the internet. When you get them in their environment, they'll tell you, yeah, we really don't like to be clean. We don't like to wash our hands. We don't like to shower. We really don't like bathing. They don't use washcloths. When it comes to cleaning, what they're doing in Rome is who they are. And the point to cover about this is that, according to the scriptures, the Lord chose this man because he's the wicked. He's the base. He chose this man and put him in the power of rulership, not because of their might, but simply because he wanted them to be the end of the world, and he was angry with us, so he allowed them to rule in the end. And in the end, he's going to show his power, and he's going to make it known. that you Edomites, you are base. You really don't have anything to glory in. This is why you keep all of this information out when you try to teach about Rome. Like they say, you just try to teach of peak human civilization. No, it's just a lie and a deception, because you need some type of history to look up to. You need something to look up to prove, because you know deep down you're just the wicked. Deep down you're a base man. Deep down there's nothing there holy. There's nothing there worth, being proud of. The only thing you're proud of is killing and stealing and lying. And you know it. But because you have the power and one of your strengths is deception, you just say, well, we're going to tell the world who we are. We're the angels. We're the guys. Well, Rome was the best time ever. We started civilization. We civilized you all. There's nothing about you that's civil. There's nothing about you that's clean. There's nothing about you that anybody would want to look up to. Nobody looks at Rome and wants to reflect anything. Everybody's looking at Rome as an example of what not to do. But since it's your history, you tried to uplift Rome as if this was peak Rome. That was the best time ever. And this is why everything in America just models after Rome, because it's truly just Rome reincarnated, as the scripture says. And it's these same Romans that's back here today. And you can keep going on, but they'll brush their teeth with urine. The doctors will prescribe urine. Their medicinal practices was completely off, completely wicked. The things they would do basically killed you. I think I took a few seconds of it. Let me see.
Set your brain. Drilling holes in as a fertility treatment. One merchant's advertisement survived in Pompeii. Genuine gladiator scrapings from the Ludus Magnus, guaranteed to contain the essence of not sick from their hygiene habits. The cures were often deadlier than the diseases. Roman medicine was a mix of Greek knowledge, superstition, and pure sadism. Many doctors were Greek slaves with questionable training. The Romans had a saying, "More people die from doctors than diseases." For headaches, doctors would apply live electric rays to your skull. The shock was supposed to reset your brain. Drilling holes in skulls to release evil spirits was common. Surprisingly, some patients survived, as evidenced by healed bone around the holes. Gladiator blood was prescribed for epilepsy. Fresh, warm, straight from the arena. Patients would rush to fallen gladiators and drink directly from their wounds. Crocodile dung mixed with chalk was applied as a face mask for clear skin. The dung was imported from Egypt at enormous cost. Ground mouse brains mixed with honey served as toothpaste. Because apparently urine wasn't disgusting enough, Romans loved lead like we love smartphones. It was everywhere and slowly killing them. They used lead for water pipes.
So those are the things they did. Crocodile dung, ordering crocodile dung, and drinking blood from gladiators. This is why, if you go to history, I like to visit this one here, when it talks about the American Indians, the Gadites, and the Reubenites, and the Northern Kingdom, etc., and then the Europeans, the Edomites, the ones who brought the disease. They talk about how before they came over here, there was no such thing. Let's look at European diseases. It says the diseases brought to this continent by the Europeans included bubonic plague, chicken pox, pneumoniac plague, cholera, diphtheria, influenza, measles, scarlet fever, smallpox, typhus, tuberculosis, and whooping cough. The diseases introduced in the Americas by the Europeans were crowd diseases, that is, individuals who have once contracted the disease and survived become immune to the disease. In a small population, the disease will become extinct. Measles, for instance, requires a population of about 300,000 to survive. If the population size drops below this threshold, the virus can cause illness and death. But after one epidemic, the virus itself dies out. Another important factor in that European diseases was the presence of domesticated animals. The source of many of the infections was the domesticated animals which lived in close proximity with the humans. Overall, hundreds of thousands of Indians died of European diseases during the first 2 centuries following contact. In terms of death tolls, smallpox killed the greatest number of Indians, followed by measles, influenza, and bubonic plague. And these are all things that you need quote-unquote jabs for today. Well, who's the source of it? You Edomites. Why? Because of your poor hygiene and because you're the wicked. You people are lawless. You bring evil and death everywhere you go. And then that's going to be the question, well, if we're so bad, how do we manage to conquer? How do we manage to conquer you all? Well, the Lord is going to make it be known how it is that you took, because you're the wicked. You're the base man, and he handpicked you to be the end of the world. Not because you crawled your way up the ladder. Not because you're so clever or cunning. Not at all. Not at all. But because you're the wicked, the Lord chose you to be the end of the world. This society that we're living in is a brutal testament to all creation, especially Israelites, of what everything that can possibly happen in the earth and under a wicked ruler. So much so that the Lord has to speed time up, as he says, and shorten the days, simply because if left under your rule, there won't be any more life left. The whole earth would be destroyed. You were set up as a testament that when we get to the kingdom of what not to do. That's why you were set up. You are the wicked. The book of the prayer of Azariah, verse 6. Verse 5, it says, for we have sinned, this is praying to the Lord, for we have sinned and committed iniquity departing from thee. In all things have we trespassed, and not obeyed thy commandments, nor kept them, neither done as thou hast commanded us, that it might go well with us. Wherefore all that thou hast brought upon us, and everything that thou hast done unto us, thou hast done in true judgment. And thou didst deliver us into the hands of lawless enemies, most hateful forsakers of Yahweh, and to an unjust king, and the most wicked in all the world. That's you Edomites. That's a punishment for us. A punishment for us is to be under rule of you, to work with you, to live around you. All those things are a curse. When we were quote unquote segregated, we were better off. But when we so-called assimilated, it was a control measure. The worst thing that really happened to us was being affiliated with you. But you want to spin the narrative and say, no, the best thing that ever happened to the world, or the best thing that ever happened to us was you. No, that's the worst thing that ever happened to all creatures on the earth is going to be able to testify to that. That's the power of the Lord, and that's what he's going to make known before he brings his destruction. Deep down, you Edomites, there was never anything there worthy to be respected or praised. Deep down, you're just a bunch of base men who like to cross-dress, who hate to be clean, who like to do all manner of base things, and like to drink blood, etc. You are everything the opposite of righteous. You read the scriptures, you read what it means to be clean, you read what it means to be holy, and you know deep down that's just completely against your spirit. And there's nothing in and nothing there to rejoice in. There's nothing. That's why you have to lie about your history. The only thing you take joy in is knowing, like, yeah, well, at least we got an army. We can shoot. We can drop a missile. At least we got that. Yeah, and you guess who gave you that? The Lord gave you that blessing. When you read about Isaac blessing Jacob and Esau, he gave you the blessing of the sword. And what did our Lord say? They that live by the sword shall die by the sword. So you took the world by the sword because the Lord allowed you, and you're going to die by that sword. But the only reason you got that is because the Lord blessed you with that. That's it. The book of Daniel 4:15. This is the very same thing that that Daniel prophesied that I said earlier. That he said a year before. It says, nevertheless, leave the stump of the roots in the earth, even with the band of iron and brass, and the tender grass of the field, and let it be wet with the dew of heaven, and let his portion be with the beasts in the grass of the earth. He's prophesying Nebuchadnezzar going through his beast phase. He put a spirit of a beast on him. It was already prophesied. He saw it in the dream. He was explaining it to him That's why Daniel even tried to tell him after the fact. He said, now look, knowing that, you better not get proud, but he got proud anyway. Verse 16, it says, let his heart be changed from man's, and let a beast's heart be given unto him, and let 7 times pass over him. And here's the point. This matter is by the decree of the watchers, and by the demand of the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will, and setteth up over it the bases of men. That's why he let Nebuchadnezzar get so mighty and great, just to put a beast spirit on him, so that he could testify himself that Yahweh speaking, I'm the one that set up you, and I could set up the basis of man. And that's what he chose. He chose you Edomites. He chose the Roman Empire, the 4th beast, to be the end of the world. The 4th beast was slain, but it had a wound. The deadly wound was healed, and it came back into power via the Renaissance period, and that's America and NATO, right, which includes the EU. You so-called European nations, you Edomite nations, you are the base that the Lord chose in the end. He chose you, because that's what they're doing. They at least want to boast, because here it is, the world come to an end. Everybody can determine that the reason the world's coming to an end is because the laws of Yahweh Yahushua are being transgressed. The scriptures aren't being followed. The world is coming to an end because you're the one in power. And looking back, they're trying to find something to boast in or to glory in. They want to glory in the Roman Empire, but how you going to glory in that? You're following the same way it did before, so there's proof that you didn't learn. But it's all prophetic. Right? And you really don't have anything to glory in, because let's bring out the truth of really how you all were living, what things was really happening. Like I think somebody even put in the comment section, the average lifespan of a Roman Empire was 35 years old. You don't want to bring that out because it makes you look bad. And it really just shows your true nature. You like doing it. You like hearing about those things. And deep down, you're just a bunch of homosexuals. All right, you women, your women like to sleep with dogs. You love dogs. You love sleeping with animals. You like to drink blood. These are all the things you're doing now. You're making it evident. And the reason you like the Roman Empire is because you had the ability to just really just be a cave beast, both your men and your women. Book of Isaiah 10, verse 12. Wherefore, no, you know what? Not yet. 2nd Ezra 11. Verse 37. And I beheld, and lo, as it were a roaring lion chased out of the wood, and I saw that he sent out a man's voice unto the eagle, and said, Here I will talk with thee, and the highest shall say unto thee. This is that eagle, which is also the 4th beast. All right. The eagle was the symbol of the Roman Empire, just like it's the symbol of America today. It says, Hear thou, I will talk with thee, and the highest will say unto thee, Art not thou it that remaineth of the 4 beasts, whom I made to reign in my world, that the end of their times might come through them? You're the 4th beast, and he chose the 4th beast to be the end of the world. You are the end of this world. You are being examined. You are being, looked into, right? We got the magnifying glass on you, your history, your nature, the true you. And it's going to be made known to the whole world before you fall. Before you fall, your pride is going to be destroyed. Part of your pride being destroyed is just uplifting your skirt. Everybody is seeing these Amalekites, the 1948ers, for who they really are and who they really always were. Just a bunch of damn devils. They are not holy children. They're not God's chosen people. They are base men of the earth. They just had their spirit concealed for a minute, but then the Lord is uplifting the skirt. So before you fall physically, you're going to take the blow spiritually, mentally, and then physically right after that. But the bottom line is the Lord is the one that chose you. Right? Isaiah, he chose you to be the end of the world. You're the wicked. Isaiah 10:12. Wherefore it shall come to pass that when the Lord hath performed his whole work upon Zion and Jerusalem, I will punish the fruit of the stout heart of the king of Assyria and the glory of his high looks. For he saith, by the strength of my hand have I done it, and by my wisdom, for I am prudent. And I have removed the bounds of the people, and I have robbed their treasures, and I have put down the inhabitants like a valiant man. Right? And my hand hath found a nest, as a nest of riches of the people, and as one gathered the eggs that are left, have I gathered all the earth, and there was none that moveth the wing, or opened the mouth, or peeped. Verse 15, shall the axe boast itself against him that heweth therein? Or shall the saw magnify itself against him that shaketh it? As if the rod should shake itself against them that lifted it up, or as the staff should lift up itself, or as it were no wood? Yeah. So the Lord is saying, I'm gonna use the Assyrians to judge my people because they're being hypocrites, which he did because they went under the northern kingdom, went under the Syrian captivity. But then afterward, he said, I'm going to judge them because they got the nerve to think that it's because of their power they doing this. And the Lord said, shall the axe boast itself against the hewer? The Lord said, I'm the one that's using you to bring judgment to my people. And that's because they transgress against me. So when it's all said and done, I will avenge you for your pride. Right? Because that's the same thing he's going to do to the you Edomites. All right, the Roman Empire was the fourth beast set up to be ruled to be the end of the world. And they conquered because they had the strength of the sword. All right, they weren't these wise people that's the founder of medicine and the founder of evolution and ingenuity, and no, that's our people. That's the Israelites, the so-called Negro, Latino, Native American. We're the source of, you could say, life, and that's because we come from the Lord. Really, Yahweh Yahushua is the source of life, and since we're His people, we're the ones that come from that. Cleanliness comes from us. Even medicinal, that comes from us. Anything good comes from us. All you bring is destruction. You bring GMOs. You bring plastic. You bring these things that's strange, that's not natural, that's not of the earth, that the earth can't receive back. That's why you have plastic oceans and things like that. These are the things you bring. You bring inconvenience. You bring disease. You bring transgenderism and cross-dressing. This is what you bring: confusion. Right? Ezekiel 39, verse 21. And I will set my glory among the heathen, and all the heathen shall see my judgment that I have executed, and my hand that I have laid upon them. So the house of Israel shall know that I am the Lord Yahweh their God from that day and forward. And the heathen shall know that the house of Israel went into captivity for their iniquity, because they trespassed against me. Therefore hid I my face from them, and gave them into the hands of their enemies. So fell they all by the sword. According to their uncleanliness and according to their transgressions have I done unto them, and hid my face from them. You see? Now therefore, thus says the Lord Yahweh, now will I bring again the captivity of Jacob, and have mercy upon the whole house of Israel, and will be jealous for my holy name. After that they have borne their shame, and all the trespasses whereby they have trespassed against me, when they dwelt safely in their land, and none made them afraid. When I have brought them again from the people, and gathered them out of their enemies' land, and am sanctified in them in the sight of many nations, then shall they know that I am the Lord Yahweh their God, which caused them to be led into captivity among the heathen. But I have gathered unto them their own land. But I have gathered them unto their own land, and have left none of them any more. Neither will I hide my face any more from them, for I have poured out my spirit upon the house of Israel, says the Lord Yahweh. So we are going to realize, we're acknowledging it now, and you other nations are going to know as well, because we have said it to the Lord our God. That's why we're on the bottom, not because any of you all did anything or you deserved it. It's simply because we moved our Lord to wrath. The Lord chose the basis of men to be in ruler and power at the end of this time. And in the end, you're going to find out that you're just the wicked. And that's going to take a huge blow to their pride. And the days of our bearing our shame, the days of those is coming up. Basically, we've finished our prison sentence, and we're going to enter the kingdom of heaven forever. And the prophecy says these Edomites, since they know that, they're going to come down with great wrath. So it's all being brought out. The Lord's going to just completely uplift you Edomites' skirt. Okay? It's going to be made known that the reason you're coming down with wrath on the people is because you know that your time is up, and you know that Jacob is next in line, and you hate your brother Jacob because of the blessing. So because you have power, you're going to use everything in you have to try to destroy the Lord's people and try to microchip them and enslave them forever. Simply because you know your time is up and you're a sore loser and you don't like to lose. That's all, man. That's all. Shalom.